After the debate with Anthony about whether we prefer renting or buying a place to live in, you all split into Team Lucelia and Team Anthony. But still, the main question remains, how can one decide what's better? It might seem like it's a personal thing and that there's no universal formula, but actually it exists, and even more than one. That's why I've looked through all practical advice financial experts give. And today, I'll share a summary of all the knowledge so that you can always find the best option for you in your particular situation and at any time in your life. There are tons of videos and articles about this topic, but after reading and watching them, I feel that many are still left very confused. To help you gain more clarity, I came up with 11 questions to ask yourself and help you decide what's the best option for you. If you're choosing between buying or renting, the first crucial question to ask yourself is, are you financially ready? Renting often seems cost-effective, but what about buying? Let's explore the economic factors that you have to consider. Let's start with the fact that the median home value in the US is around $416,000. You can find this place in western states like Nevada, Arizona, and Idaho, and some eastern states, mainly New York, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. If you don't have that money in cash, your only option is to buy a home by taking a mortgage. The 30-year home loan is the most popular mortgage type, representing around 70% of all American mortgages. Its popularity, it's easy to understand. It gives us 3 decades to pay off the mortgage debt. So there's no need to hurry, and you can simply use the bank's money, which gives you more freedom of action on how to invest your other funds. And in the end, paying off $416,000 over 30 years seems manageable for many. But there's a significant but called taxes and interest.
Because if you take a $200,000 mortgage at 5% interest, well, that's $10,000 a year that you're sending in interest.
Let's calculate your monthly costs associated with buying a home with a mortgage. So the cost of the house is $416,000. Let's say you take a 30-year mortgage with a down payment of 20%, which is $83,200. The interest rate that you're likely to get now is around 7.5%. So if you have already paid 20% for the down payment, you have $332,800 left to pay off. In theory, yes, but that's not the case in practice. Given the above conditions of your mortgage, you have to pay over $2,300 every month. So in a year, you'll spend about $28,000. That means that over 30 years, you'll wind up paying nearly $840,960 on your mortgage. And that's 202% more than the original cost of the house. The numbers are impressive, but remember that these are only the costs associated with the mortgage. And this brings us to the following question. What other costs will you face as a homeowner?
Property taxes are assessed by the city, and it'll be calculated based on the size of your actual land, any amenities in the area.
When you are a homeowner, you also need to pay property taxes regularly. Just keep in mind that the amount of property tax can vary greatly. It depends on the total square footage, the type of property, the area of the real estate, and the state. For example, Nevada's average yearly property tax is only 0.55%, while in New Jersey, it is about 246%. On average, property taxes in the US, it's about 1.1%. So for a $416,000 home, you will pay around $381 per month. Besides, as a homeowner, you must pay homeowner's insurance. And your insurance rate will vary based on where you live and factors specific to your home. For example, the highest yearly insurance rates are in central states such as Nebraska, $3,710, and Oklahoma, $4,365. Meanwhile, the average homeowner insurance in Utah can be around $950. Generally, the annual homeowners insurance cost in the US is about $1,820. So you'll add nearly $151 more to your monthly payment. As a homeowner, you will need to pay a total of $2,868 each month to cover your mortgage payments and all the other associated costs. At the same time, the average rent of a 2-bedroom apartment in the US is $1,320. And that, in turn, is more than 2 times lower than if you were a homeowner. House payments can take up about a third of the average American monthly budget, but these are not all of your expenses when renting or buying a home. So the next important question is, what are your other expenses?
How much the average American spends on several items?
Of course, everyone has different lifestyles, but on average, Americans spend each month about $734 on household supplies and utilities, $610 on food, $431 on healthcare, $243 on entertainment, and $604 on Social Security contributions. That's a total of $2,610 of expenses per month, and that number doesn't even include transportation cost.
The second largest expense for Americans is transportation.
If you have a car, you spend over $812 monthly on related expenses. Those are fuel, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. Also, you may have a car loan. So additionally, each month, you will have to cover all of that. Car loan takes third place in the US consumer debt, which is over 9% of the total Americans owe. The second biggest part of the American debt is student loans. And this is another regular monthly expense for many. The average federal student loan debt is over $37,000 per borrower, while the median monthly payment towards the student loan is about $250.
The amount of money that's wasted on meaningless education in this country and never ceases to amaze me.
Also, sometimes you will need a vacation. The average single-person vacation in the US costs $1,919 weekly. So apart from housing expenses, an average American household will spend from $3,500 to $5,500 monthly on other needs. And if you have kids or relatives you take care of, this number can get even higher. But there is another thing you have to consider when choosing between renting and buying a home to live in. And if we take our example from above, we will have saved about $1,500 per month by renting our place of residence instead of buying it. And this is more than enough to invest, which brings us to our next question. Do you like the idea of having free capital to invest?
Saving money alone will not help you build wealth.
There are many investment opportunities available today. First of all, you can invest money you will spend on your place of residence into another investment property and rent it out to have a steady cash flow. I talk more in depth about that in this video. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out after finishing this video. Of course, there are other popular options. For example, you can invest in S&P 500 index funds, which are a collection of shares of different companies. So generally speaking, you can't lose by buying a set of stocks unless you have to sell when markets are down. But usually, if shares of one company fall, they will be compensated in your investment portfolio by shares of other companies from the same package. For example, if you had invested $1,000 in an index fund 10 years ago, today, the average price of those stocks will be over $3,200 without reinvesting the dividends. And if we go back to our example where we've managed to save $1,500 monthly because of renting instead of buying, we will get around $18,000 spare dollars in 1 year. And if you invest these $18,000 in index funds now, in 10 years, their value can be over $58,000 based on the historical growth of the market. And if you invest every year for 10 years, that amount will grow exponentially thanks to the compounding effect. Of course, inflation will take its toll, but you will still make a profit in any case. And apart from index funds, you can also invest in real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs, since they give you the opportunity to get into real estate without actually buying any property. Last year, The REITs market in the US reached $1.3 trillion. The beauty of this type of investing is that these companies have to pay around 90% of their profits to their investors in the form of dividends. Besides, you can start investing in REITs with less than $100, while your income will depend on the specific trust and its dividend yield. For example, if a REIT has an annual dividend yield of 5%, your $1,500 investment will generate $75 yearly. Of course, you can invest in real estate and index funds while paying for your mortgage. But let's be honest, it is much more difficult to do that because it puts a lot of financial pressure on us. But again, one important thing I have to mention is that if you don't feel comfortable with investing in index funds, REITs, treasuries, or anything else except for real estate, then getting a mortgage is better in most cases. Because if you simply sit on your cash waiting for something, you will just lose money because of inflation. So think this through before deciding. Anyway, whether you buy a home or invest in something else, you need to understand the current situation. So the next question you should ask yourself is, what do you know about the housing market?
There's a housing crash, they told us in 2020. No, wait, it's going to happen in 2021. Hold on, it's happening in 2022.
How does the housing market work and what do we need to watch for?
This is rather a complex and extensive question. To answer it, you need to understand how a mortgage works, what taxes a borrower needs to pay, what type of different mortgages are available, and for how long. Also, you should understand the different conditions banks give to select the best offer for you. If you plan to invest, you should also study the market, whether it is in index funds or real estate. For this, you can use all kinds of sources of information, including our channel, where we always try to explain and simplify complicated concepts. Having this basic knowledge is crucial to make wise decisions. Another important thing is to be informed about the current agenda in the world, which brings me to our next question. What are our current economic conditions? Of course, the real estate market conditions are always changing. Sometimes renting is more expensive, and sometimes the interest rates and home prices are sky high. So is there a quicker way to calculate whether renting or buying a home is financially better?
The rule here is to take the home price, multiply it by 8.71%, and then divide it by 12. That's the total cost.
This formula is called the 8.71% rule. It gives you the estimated monthly cost of ownership. If monthly rent payments end up being lower, then owning is likely the better choice. This can help you look at this question from a different perspective, but it doesn't show you the whole picture. That's why you have to ask yourself another essential question. How familiar are you with the area where you will live? This is more important than you think because sometimes the beautiful facade of the house might be the only advantage of the entire neighborhood. Before renting and especially buying a home, you should find out as much as you can about the area. Check the reviews to find out more about the place's reputation. Besides, reading the local news might be a good idea. Talk to potential neighbors to hear their thoughts about living in the area. And of course, try to find out what the infrastructure is like. How far away are these stores, your job, school, hospital, and other essential things for you? You might need to visit the neighborhood several times before making your final decision. Just remember that it is necessary to observe the life of the area where you want to move in. Most likely, you will find at least some small things you are not satisfied with. And that leads us to the next question. How long do you plan to live there?
Ivan Hibbard is a nimble 92-year-old, and this humble house on the outskirts of Christchurch has been Ivan's home his entire life.
How long you live in the place you choose often depends on whether you can handle the things you don't like about your neighborhood for an extended period. When it comes to an area, more Americans are satisfied with their house rather than their location. According to a recent Gallup report, 63% of respondents in the U.S. were very satisfied with their property, so to speak. But this number was lower when Americans were assessing the community they lived in. This shows us that people tend to like housing more than the area. But how long can you stay in a neighborhood you don't like? If you aren't sure about the area, renting can be your lifesaver. It gives you time to explore the place in more detail. And if you don't like something, you can just pack and move to a more suitable area. That's why renting in some cases can give you more freedom. And at the same time, by buying a house, you can tie yourself to one place for many years. If you have a 30-year mortgage, many things can change in the course of 30 years, and your neighborhood might not be as prosperous and convenient for you anymore. Once you have decided on a location, it is crucial to answer the following question. How much freedom do you need in your life? If you're renting, you often must simply accept what you have, even if the furniture and the appliances your landlord provides might not be to your liking. You are often limited in what you can change since you're renting and living in someone else's property. When you own your house, you have much more freedom of action. As long as your budget allows it, you can create the home of your dreams.
Are you concerned about spending money on renovating or remodeling your house this year? Is that an issue for you?
On average, Americans renovate their houses every 3 to 5 years. But if you rent a place and don't like the interior anymore, you can just move out without getting into renovations. An average person in the US spends about $1,000 a year to improve their homes. Americans in Indiana, Iowa, and Colorado tend to spend the most on home remodeling and decor compared to other states. Renovations are one of the time-consuming things you will face when having your own property. Being a homeowner can be challenging because of the risks associated with homeownership. So here comes our next question. Are you ready for the risk of homeownership? As we saw earlier, buying a house with a mortgage ends up being around 200% more expensive. This can put pressure on you and your wallet. And of course, it can get especially critical in case of a job loss or any emergencies that lead to extra expenses. Besides, all the costs associated with repairs and renovations will also be on you. Yes, you will be the one decided what colors to paint your walls, but you will also have to pay for the painting. And this is again an extra expense. The value of your home could increase over the years, but it will take time. After 30 years, you will pay at least twice the original cost of the property because of your mortgage. And when you decide to sell the house, the sales proceeds might not cover all of your previous expenses. You will also face the risk of losing everything if a natural disaster strikes. For example, the threat from the California wildfires increases yearly. Just imagine that since 2017, the state has lost over 31,000 homes to wildfires. Of course, homeowners insurance typically covers these type of damages, but it can be challenging to obtain coverage in high-risk areas. Plus, you'll be left without a home anyways.
That devastating wildfire that tore through a wealthy Southern California neighborhood overlooking the Pacific. At least 20 homes were torched.
What about renting a place to live then? Well, this option also has its drawbacks. Yet, if you're not satisfied with something, it is much easier to pack up your things and move to a place where the conditions suit you. That's why another vital question to ask yourself is, how will renting versus owning real estate affect your lifestyle? We all have our routines. We go to work, we do grocery shopping and sports, we go to playgrounds with children or to the park with a dog, or maybe we eat out often. We're all very different and we all need different environments. Imagine if you have to commute to work for an hour and a half each way. How would you view your living area in that scenario? And now, imagine choosing to live near your workplace, which is a location popular among students. Do you foresee staying there for 10 or 20 years when you have your own family? And what if you buy a house there, but then you change jobs or your office relocates? For these and many other reasons, many choose to rent. It offers the flexibility to move when your preferences change, whereas as a homeowner, you won't have this luxury, which can significantly affect your daily routine. Of course, renting a place isn't perfect either. Your rent might increase and you might have to search for another place. At the end of the day, there's nothing perfect in this world, and only you can know what's the best choice for you depending on your life situation. Sooner or later, we'll all come to a point where we have to make a decision. Should we rent or buy a home? Both options come with their own set of pros and cons, and to make the best choice, you have to be honest with yourself. Asking these 11 essential questions will help you get a much clearer picture of what you need. What's your take on this? Are you on Team Anthony or Team Bliss Elliott today? Share your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.